Welcome. I am in the process of living for a week with the PowerMac G4 mirrored drive doors Firewire 800 revision computer as my computer. So far, things are going very well. One of the things that has made all the difference is that machine is able to run macOS 10.5 Leopard. And I did a video, of course, on installing Leopard. Running Leopard, I mean, there are a lot of improvements made in Leopard that bring it a little bit closer to what a modern version of the OS can do. But one of the most important from that desire to watch YouTube videos that anybody watching this being on YouTube probably has, the thing that makes that work is the Leopard Webkit browser. And that does work very, very well. Indeed, I was a little surprised. The 1 gigahertz G4 is not really all that much worse at playing YouTube videos than the dual 1.8 gigahertz G5s. Surprising little thing. So that got me to thinking, what if the Sawtooth could run Leopard? When Apple released Leopard, they restricted it. You had to have a processor running at least 867 megahertz. That left out all of the G3s and the G4 line up to, I believe it's the 867 megahertz Quicksilvers. The Sawtooth, you're out of luck. However, people have been hacking at things to get newer versions of the operating system to run on older Macs that are not supported for a long time. There were 3 ways that I found of getting a machine like Sawtooth to run Leopard. One, you could hack the installer files so that the installer was not checking the speed of the processor. That's kind of a pain because you've got to take the files off the installed DVD, then burn a new DVD. It can be done. Perhaps a little simpler is to boot the machine into open firmware and run some commands that tell it to report the processor speed differently from what it is. And that definitely works. There is also a small program, you can still get it on the internet, called Leopard Assist. By running Leopard Assist, it resets your PRAM so that the processor speed, again, is being reported differently. That's probably the easiest of them. Evidently, that wouldn't work on all G4s, but if they didn't, then the open firmware commands would work. Well, you know, I thought maybe there's a 4th way. And I thought that because I was looking at the directions on Leopard Assist, saying that if you encountered problems once Leopard's installed, you could undo the the PRAM setting by zapping the PRAM, and Leopard would still run because it's installed. Well, I was thinking, what if I were to use a Mac that will run Leopard, install it onto a disk, and then put that into the Sawtooth? Would that actually run? So behind me, the MDD Firewire 800 has Carbon Copy Cloner running, cloning the Leopard installation onto another drive. It's a cool little drive, but I'll talk about that another time. And we're going to see if that actually works. I hope you find this as interesting as I do. The cloning has completed successfully, at least so said Carbon Copy Cloner. We're going to find out how successful it was. I have removed this G Technologies Firewire 800 drive. There in the back you can see the two Firewire 800s, remembering that you can daisy chain, so there's Firewire 800 input and a Firewire 800 pass-through, and a mini USB connector to connect by a USB 2. Quite a handy little drive, and it's served well on the inside. We remember that there is, right here, that internal Firewire port. So now I am going to replace that drive with this guy. This is an enclosure made by OWC, Other World Computing. I have put into this a crucial 1 terabyte SSD. We can see on the back, on the extreme left, USB 3 connector, which is of course backwards compatible to the earlier implementations. The two Firewire 800s, exactly the same. There is a power port in case you needed to put in a power adapter there. The MDD was running it fine. Hopefully the Sawtooth will run it fine. And then next to that on the far right, there's a little switch there, which switches this from being a USB drive to being a Firewire drive. So, I plug in the Firewire. It's going to go in here where the other one was, and I'm going to take a moment here to try to find a way to cable manage this incredibly long cable just a little bit better than I had it before. All right. Next thing you should see, though, would be the desktop to find out if this all worked. Well, so far we have success. There are on that 1 terabyte SSD 4 partitions, all of which are showing up the desktop. Only one of them has anything on it. That's the Leopard partition. I've got a 20 gigabyte partition, which I'm planning to move the OS 9 installation. I've got an 80 gigabyte. Actually, I may have made that 100 for Tiger. And then Leopard has the balance of that. So that's... No, I take that back. Leopard has about 300 or so. And then there is a data made up of the balance that is shared by all of the operating systems that are available, whatever you boot it into. I mean, up here there's a 120 gig SSD where I currently have Tiger, OS 9, and Jaguar installed, and I have Panther on the 20 gig built-in hard drive. Now, we need to take a look here at System Preferences, Startup Disk. There's so many operating systems right now. It's going to take a while to populate. But I see there right off the bat, I mean, currently booted into Tiger on the Tiger SSD. The next choice is Jaguar. The third choice, check this out, Mac OS X 10.5.8 on Leopard FW for FireWire. Now, just because it shows up as a possibility in Startup Disk does not mean it's actually going to work. But there's really only one way to find out. All right. Share with me the anticipation and then the hopefully excitement or disappointment, whatever it may be. We're going to boot up into something. Yeah, this monitor doesn't really get along that well. Unfortunately, the Sawtooth does not have the ADC or Apple Display Connector port on the back of it. I suppose I might be able to get another graphics card that would fit it, that would have it. I'll think about that. But we do have to use a more modern, but definitely not as cool monitor. All right. Let's wake this back up. Well, it's going to boot into something. Let's see. And son of a gun, that's the default Leopard background. The first time it's booted on this machine, it may take a little while for everything to populate. I'll have to change that around. No, I don't. All right. It boots up. I'll be darned. Okay, so what I'm going to do is clone the OS 9 SSD partition to the Mac OS 9 FireWire partition, the Tiger partition that's currently on Tiger SSD will move to Tiger FireWire, and the Panther, which currently is on that really old 20 gig hard drive that I'm afraid may fail at any minute, I'm going to clone that onto where Tiger was. So on the SSD, we'll be leaving, the Tiger SSD. So the SSD will have Jaguar, Tiger, and then I'm going to try installing OS 8.6, since that's the operating system that this machine shipped with. All right, now the other things, of course, I need to do will be to live with this a little bit. That's going to have to be put in the back burner for a while because I still need to finish living with the MDD Firewire 800. But yeah, work with this, see how things work, and then I'll report back once we've got that. But the first step, definitely included. By cloning an existing Leopard installation onto a disk, and then putting that disk on this machine, you get around the installer. I've already done all of the updates on this, so no worries there. If it runs decently at all, we'll be good to go. Now, let me see. I want to check the displays. Yeah, it defaulted to a lower resolution. I'm going to set it up to the highest resolution. Huh. Okay. That work gives us a little bit more screen real estate, so I think we're going to be in a good place here. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick glimpse. You'll be seeing more of this machine, and certainly more of all of the other machines too. Thank you so much for joining me. We'll have more out really quite soon.